Snow fell quietly across the mountain valley, covering everything in a blanket of white. The human soldier Mason moved through the storm slowly. He had been separated from his squad 2 days ago during the retreat. His supplies were almost gone, his comms broken, and his energy rifle frozen from the cold. But he kept walking. He had to survive. Far above in orbit, the war between humans and the Zeralians had exploded without warning. Peace talks failed. Some said it was a misunderstanding. Others believed the Zeralians were simply desperate. Either way, both sides lost too much too quickly. Mason didn't care about politics anymore. He only wanted to make it back to base. As the storm thickened, Mason saw a shape ahead in the snow. It was small and still, curled up near a half-buried wooden structure that looked like an old cabin. He pulled his scarf tighter around his face and moved toward it carefully. When he got closer, his eyes widened. It was a woman. Or something close. Her skin was lavender with a slight shimmer. Her long white hair was wet and tangled from the snow. Alien markings covered her body like glowing tattoos. She wore little, just thin silver-like armor that barely protected her from the cold. Her hands were pressed together, shaking. She looked up at Mason slowly, her violet eyes full of pain, fear, and something else. She didn't speak at first. Mason raised his hands to show he wasn't a threat. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said calmly. She blinked, then spoke in a soft, broken voice. "If I don't match, I will die tonight." She whispered, "Please, human." Mason stepped back slightly. He had never heard that kind of desperation before. Not from a soldier, not even from the refugees during evacuation. This was something deeper. Her body trembled violently. Her lips were turning blue. "Match?" he asked. "What does that mean?" She nodded slowly. "My kind, we enter matching phase once. Our bodies they burn inside. We must find warmth from another being. It chooses us. I chose you." Mason wasn't sure what to say. He looked around. There was no one else. No signs of others. Just snow and silence. "Is there anyone else here with you?" he asked. She shook her head. "I ran. They were going to leave me because I matched a human. They call it shame, but I want to live." Her voice cracked. "Please, just warmth. I don't want to die." The war had taught Mason many things. Most important, sometimes people lied to survive. But sometimes they told the truth when it mattered most. He looked at her. Her body was shaking harder now. Frost clung to her arms. Her breathing was slowing. She wasn't faking. Mason walked to the wooden shelter. The door creaked open. It was empty inside, but at least there was some protection from the wind. "Come," he said. She tried to stand but collapsed. Mason caught her before she hit the snow. Her skin was like ice, cold, but soft. Her body felt weak, fragile. He carried her inside the shelter, set her down near the center, pulled off his jacket and wrapped it around her. Then he took out the emergency heating coil from his belt and activated it. A faint warmth filled the small cabin. She gasped softly. Her hands slowly gripped the jacket, pulling it closer. Mason sat beside her. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated, then replied, "Jaya." He nodded. "I'm Mason." For a long moment, neither spoke. Outside, the storm continued to howl. Inside, two enemies sat quietly, sharing warmth in the cold. With a war raging above them, neither could stop. But something unspoken had begun between them, and Mason, though unsure why, felt the weight of a choice hanging in the air. He just didn't know how deep it would go. Mason kept checking the heating coil as the snowstorm outside roared louder. Inside the wooden cabin, the warmth was only enough to keep the freezing air at bay. But it was better than being out there. Jaya lay curled near the glowing coil, her body covered with Mason's jacket. Her eyes were half closed, her breathing still shallow. Mason watched her quietly. He had never seen an alien up close like this before. Her features were delicate, almost human, except for the strange glowing lines across her skin and the faint shimmer of her body under the coat. Her voice still echoed in his mind. "If I don't match, I will die tonight." He didn't fully understand what she meant, but he knew pain when he saw it. And this wasn't a trick. She was barely clinging to life. Suddenly, her body jerked. She sat up quickly, clutching her chest, gasping as if her lungs were on fire. Mason rushed to her side. "Jaya, what's wrong?" She grabbed his arm tightly. Her skin burned against his, even through his clothes. "My core, it's too hot. It's burning from inside. It's not just cold anymore," she whispered. "Then what do we do?" Mason asked. Jaya looked at him, her eyes full of panic and shame. "I need physical contact, skin, warmth. It is how my people survive the match. We link bodies. It doesn't have to be mating, just closeness, shared energy. Please, I need your help." Mason paused. He was trained for war, not for this. Still he nodded. "All right," he said. "Let's do this right. Here." He took off his gloves, then his shirt, and helped her sit closer to him. She moved like someone in a dream, her body too weak to argue. Gently, she leaned against him, her bare back pressing into his chest. Her skin felt like fire and ice at the same time. Jaya closed her eyes. "Thank you." Mason didn't answer. He just held her tighter, letting his body heat transfer into hers. For a long time they sat like that. Slowly, her shaking stopped. Her breathing became steady. Her head rested gently against his neck. Jaya whispered, "The bond is forming." "What bond?" Mason asked. Thought she hesitated. "It's something we can't stop. Once the match begins and survival happens, the bodies remember. The heart remembers. I may never forget you now." Mason felt her words sink in like cold water. He had saved her life. But in doing so, something had begun between them. A connection deeper than logic. Deeper than duty. He looked down at her resting in his arms. "What happens now?" he asked softly. Jaya opened her eyes. "Now I heal. And then I return to my people, but they may not accept me anymore." "Because you matched with a human?" Mason said bitterly. She nodded. "They'll call me impure, cast me out. Maybe worse." "Then don't go back," he said. Jaya looked up at him. "And go where?" Mason didn't have an answer. He was still lost in enemy territory himself. But one thing was clear. Jaya wasn't his enemy anymore. Outside, the storm began to slow. Inside, she whispered, "Do you feel it?" He didn't answer, but yes, he felt it. Not just warmth, something deeper, a quiet understanding between two souls from different stars. Morning light spilled through the cracks of the old wooden cabin. The snow outside had softened, no longer falling heavy from the sky. For the first time in days, the wind was calm. Mason opened his eyes slowly. He was still holding Jaya in his arms, her back resting against his chest. Her breathing was slow and steady now, not the shaky gasps from before. Her skin had returned to a healthy glow, no longer freezing or burning to the touch. She stirred gently and looked up at him. "You stayed awake the whole night?" she asked. Mason shook his head. "No, just enough to make sure you were still breathing." Jaya smiled softly. It was the first time he had seen her smile. It was small but real. "I'm still alive. Thanks to you." Mason let go of her carefully and stood up. He grabbed his coat and walked to the door. The sky was pale blue outside. No ships, no patrols, but also no rescue. "I'll scout around," he said. "Maybe find something useful." She nodded and pulled the coat tighter around her. "Be careful. My people sometimes hunt deserters." Mason paused. "You're not a deserter." "I am now," she said quietly. He left without answering. Outside, the world felt empty. Mason walked across the snowy slope, checking for signs of movement. His boots crunched through the fresh layer of snow. He found a few frozen crates near an old crash site, half buried, but nothing edible. He grabbed a thermal flare from one and returned to the cabin. Jaya was sitting up when he returned, her silver hair falling across her shoulders. She looked stronger now. Her eyes followed him carefully. "I know what you're thinking," she said. "Yeah?" Mason replied, placing the flare down. "What's that?" "That you can't keep helping me forever. That we come from two different worlds. That this is temporary." He stayed silent. Jaya looked away. "I don't blame you. Humans and Zeralians have spilled too much blood. Trust is a strange thing now." Mason finally spoke. "I don't care what species you are. You were freezing. You needed help. That was enough." She looked back at him. "But what if that help changes everything? What do you mean?" Jaya touched her chest gently. "Our match bond. It's not just survival. It leaves something behind. I don't feel like myself anymore. I feel drawn to you." Mason stared at her. "I didn't choose that," she said. "It just happened. But now, if I go back, they'll scan my body. They'll see the imprint of the human bond. And they'll punish me." Mason stepped forward. "You don't have to go back." "And do what?" she said. "Wander the frozen wilds with a soldier who doesn't even know what comes next." He didn't answer. Jaya stood slowly, her body still a little weak but steady. She walked to him, her bare feet barely making a sound on the wooden floor. "Then what do you want from me, human?" "I don't want anything from you," Mason replied. "But I won't let you die." She looked into his eyes for a long time. Then she nodded. "I won't run," she said. "Not anymore." For the rest of the day, they worked quietly. Mason fixed the broken window with scrap wood. Jaya used her knowledge of alien energy coils to power the flare and create a weak but stable heat source. Together, they made the cabin livable. By nightfall, they sat side by side, not touching, just close. Two enemies. Two survivors. No longer strangers. Something had changed again between them, even if neither said it aloud. And far in the sky above, ships moved across the stars, searching, watching. But for now, in this small piece of frozen world, there was only silence and one impossible bond. The next morning, Mason found tracks in the snow. He had stepped out to check the perimeter of the cabin. The snow was freshly disturbed. Large boots too wide for his own. Not animal prints, military. He crouched and studied the trail. It wasn't just one person. There were three, maybe four. Moving slowly, possibly searching, possibly hunting. Stood up quickly and rushed back to the cabin. Jaya was awake, sitting on the floor near the heat coil, sharpening a long piece of scrap metal into a blade. She looked up the moment he entered. "We're not alone," Mason said. Her expression turned serious. "Zyralians? Could be. Could also be human scouts, but they're close." Jaya stood up. "Then we don't have much time." She wrapped a blanket around her and followed him to the edge of the cabin. He showed her the tracks. Her eyes narrowed. "These belong to a Zeralian elite unit. I know their formation." "How do you know they're not searching for you?" Mason asked. "They are. And if they find me, they'll kill you first." Mason clenched his jaw. "Then we move." Jaya shook her head. "No, we can't outrun them in this snow. They have sensors. If we run, they'll pick up our energy. Signatures." "Then what?" She looked around. "We make them think I'm dead." "That's the plan?" She nodded. "If they believe I didn't survive the match phase, they'll leave. It's the only way." Mason didn't like it, but it was better than being hunted down in the open. Together, they dragged snow inside and spread it around the floor to make the cabin look abandoned. Jia lay on the floor, slowing her breath, using a small pulse crystal from her belt to drop her body. Temperature to the edge of STASIS. Mason covered her in a thermal wrap and placed ash from the heater around her body to hide the glow from her skin. He took a deep breath and stepped outside. Moments later, he saw them, 3 tall figures in dark armor, with glowing lines and scanning visors. Zeralians, not like Gia. These were built for war. One of them raised a hand and pointed a weapon. Mason didn't move. "What is your name?" the lead asked in a cold, metallic voice. "Mason, human recon. Lost during orbital retreat." They scanned him. "You are unarmed." "I had to burn my weapon to stay warm," he lied. "What are you doing here?" He gestured to the cabin. "I found it. Shelter. Just waiting out the storm." The lead stepped forward. "This location received a distress signature. Did you see anything?" Mason hesitated, then shook his head. "No, just snow and wreckage." They stared at him for a long moment. Then one of them moved into the cabin. Mason's heart pounded. He wanted to run inside to stop them, but he stayed still. A long minute passed, then the soldier walked back out. Nothing. Only ash and melted coils. The leader nodded. The weak one must have burned out. A failed match. They turned without another word and walked off into the snow, disappearing into the white like ghosts. Mason waited until they were completely gone before rushing back inside. Gia's eyes were open. "They bought it," she said softly. Mason helped her. "Sit up. You almost stopped breathing." "I had to. That's how they test for life." "You could have died," he said. She looked at him, her voice low. "I matched to live. But now, I stayed alive for you." He didn't know what to say. But something inside him shifted. Gia was no longer just a stranger, or even just a survivor. She had chosen to stay, and now, so had he. For the next 2 days, the cabin stayed quiet. No more footsteps in the snow. No sounds of patrols. Just the slow cracking of ice and the soft hum of the heat coil as it glowed low in the center of the room. Gia had recovered. Her skin no longer burned. Her voice was strong again. The bond had saved her life, but something more had grown since then. Mason could feel it. In the way she looked at him now. In how she sat closer without saying a word. In the long silences that were no longer awkward. Gia helped him fix the radio transmitter he had taken from a broken drop pod. She adjusted the crystal nodes and rewired the power intake using tech Mason couldn't even name. "You're smarter than most humans I've met," she teased. "You haven't met many," Mason replied. "I didn't say that was a compliment," she added, smiling. They laughed softly. The cold still surrounded the cabin, but it didn't reach inside anymore. Mason finally asked the question that had been haunting him. "What happens to us after this?" Gia looked at him. "What do you mean?" "When the storm clears." "When?" "I call for rescue. When you have a chance to return to your people. What happens then?" She paused for a long time. "I don't know," she said. "But I do know this. If I go back, they will punish me. Maybe exile me, maybe worse. You're willing to risk that?" "I already did," she said. "I matched with a human. I let him hold me. I let him see me weak." Mason looked away. "You weren't weak. You survived." Gia reached into the pouch by her side and pulled out a small glowing shard. She held it gently in her palm. "This is my birthstone," she said. "It connects me to my family line. I was supposed to bury it at the Shrine of Blood Moon when I earned my warrior's title. But I never did. I held on to it." She closed her fingers around it. "I'm giving it to you." Mason froze. "What? Why?" "Because I chose to live, and I chose who helped me live." "That means something." He looked at her. Her eyes were calm, but her hands trembled slightly as she held out the glowing shard. Mason reached out slowly and took it from her hand. It felt warm, almost alive. "I don't know what this means," he said honestly. Jaya nodded. It means you're part of my story now, no matter what happens. The next day, the radio flickered to life. A human voice crackled through the speaker. This is Eagle Command. Recon Team Mason 4, respond, repeat, respond. Mason and Jaya exchanged a look. He picked up the mic. This is Mason, alive. Coordinates locked, awaiting evac. Copy that, the voice said. ET in 90 minutes. Sit tight. He set the mic down slowly. Jaya stood in silence. So, they're coming, she said. He nodded. She looked at him. And when they arrive, what will you tell them about me? I don't know, Mason said truthfully. But I know I won't. Let them take you as a prisoner. You may not have a choice. Mason held up the glowing birthstone. Maybe I do. Jaya stepped forward. She gently touched the shard in his hand, and then placed her other hand over his heart. No matter what happens, you saved me. He looked into her eyes. You saved yourself. But both of them knew that wasn't fully true. The match had bonded more than just bodies. It had bonded purpose. And something like hope. Outside, the sky was clearing. In the distance, the faint sound of engines began to rise through the air. Rescue was coming, and with it, the final test of what they had become. Asterisk. The human dropship broke through the clouds, its engines stirring the snow like a rising storm. Mason and Jaya stood outside the cabin, side by side. She had wrapped herself in one of the thermal cloaks, her silver hair blowing gently in the cold wind. Neither spoke as the ship landed. The ramp hissed open, and 4 soldiers stepped out heavily armed, helmets on, weapons drawn but lowered. They scanned the area first, then locked eyes on Mason. One of them stepped forward. Mason, report. I survived the crash, he said calmly. I made shelter. I held position. The soldier looked past him. His eyes narrowed under the helmet. What is that? Jaya raised her chin but stayed silent. She's the reason I'm alive, Mason said. She's the enemy, the soldier snapped. And she's not restrained. She saved me, Mason replied firmly. And I saved her. A second soldier stepped closer, scanning Jia's body with a handheld device. It beeped once, then glowed red. She's imprinted, the soldier said. Matched. Confirmed human pairing. The first soldier shook his head. Then she's compromised. She's dangerous. Jaya took a small step forward. I will not fight. I'm not your prisoner. She's not going with you, Mason said. She's with me. The soldier raised his weapon. That's not your decision. Mason stepped between them. Then you'll have to shoot me first. A long silence fell. Snow drifted around them. The dropship engine stayed hot, vibrating through the ground. The team leader lowered his weapon, slowly. She's bonded. That's above our pay grade. He tapped his comm. Eagle Command, situation update. Civilian grade imprint detected. Humans Iralian match confirmed. Requesting instructions. There was silence, then a voice replied through the earpiece. Stand by. Mason looked at Jia. Her fingers touched the shard he still carried. She didn't look afraid, but she didn't look hopeful either. Finally, the comm replied again. New orders. If the subject is bonded under mutual consent and has not shown hostile intent, escort both to Central Command. They want to see this for themselves. The soldier didn't hide his surprise. Understood. He looked back at Mason. Get in. The ship, both of you. Jaya hesitated. Mason extended his hand. She looked at it for a moment, then placed hers in his. Together, they climbed the ramp. Inside the dropship, the air was warm and dry. The other soldiers watched in silence, uncertain but obeying orders. Jaya sat beside Mason, her body still tense. He placed the shard in her hand. I think this belongs to both of us now, he said. She closed her fingers around it. They lifted. Off, the snowy mountains faded beneath them. growing smaller as the ship rose toward orbit. For the first time since the war began, something different moved between the two races, not bullets, not hate, but something fragile and real, a bond, not just to survive, but to begin again.